Let's be real, the housing affordability crisis feels, well, pretty impossible sometimes, doesn't it? Well, President Trump has just rolled out some really headline-grabbing proposals aimed at tackling it head-on. So in this explainer, we're going to break down what's actually on the table, what the experts think, and the huge challenge that's hiding just beneath the surface of it all. You know, this one sentence really gets to the heart of this whole policy push. It frames the entire issue not just as some dry economic problem, but as a fight for the American dream itself. So what's the actual plan to back up such a bold statement?
Okay, here's how we're going to walk through this. First, we'll hit the big one, the ban on corporate home buyers. Then, we'll see what the experts have to say about that. After that, we'll look at some other ideas for down payments, try to untangle this thing called the home value conundrum, and finally ask, what happens now? All right, let's get into the main event. The policy that's getting all the buzz is this plan to ban big corporations from buying up single-family homes. And it was all kicked off with an executive order. The goal here is crystal clear, right? The administration is arguing that these giant institutional investors are just swooping in, outbidding regular families, and jacking up prices everywhere. So the proposed solution? Just stop them. Ban them from buying these homes and, in theory, level the playing field for everybody else. But when you actually look at the executive order, it's less of a straight-up ban and more like a series of instructions. It tells federal agencies they need to prioritize individual homeowners. It instructs the Attorney General and the FTC to review these big purchases. And it asks the Treasury Secretary to scrutinize the rules. It definitely sets a direction, but the how is still a huge question mark.
So we have the proposal. But the big question is, will it actually solve the problem? Well, this is where we bring in the experts, and let's just say a lot of housing economists are pretty skeptical.
And here you can see the fundamental disagreement. The administration says the problem is big corporations. But most economists, they point to a totally different culprit, a massive lack of housing supply. They argue that things like restrictive zoning laws and the high cost of construction mean there just aren't enough homes for sale to begin with. And on top of that, they say these institutional investors are actually a pretty small slice of the home buying pie nationwide.
This quote from senior economist Jake Krimmel really sums up what a lot of the experts are thinking. The general feeling is that because this policy doesn't fix the core supply issue and it targets a relatively small group of buyers, it's just unlikely to move the needle on making homes more affordable for the average person. But honestly, there's an even bigger piece of the puzzle missing. The executive order never actually defines what an institutional investor even is. Is that a company that owns 100 homes, 1,000, 10,000? Without a clear definition, you have to wonder how a policy like this could even be enforced. So yeah, the corporate ban is facing some pretty tough questions. But it's not the only idea floating around. The administration has also talked about some other proposals that are aimed at helping people get over that first massive hurdle, saving up for a down payment. And there are two really different ideas here. First, capping credit card interest rates. The logic is simple. High interest debt makes it almost impossible to save money. So if you lower that debt, people can build up a down payment much faster. The second idea is a potential game changer for the tax code. Right now, investors can claim depreciation on rental homes. It's a tax deduction for wear and tear. This proposal would give that same powerful tax break to regular homeowners, which could mean more money in their pockets every single year. Okay, now we get to the real tightrope walk of any housing policy. This is the central conflict that every politician has to deal with. How in the world do you make homes more affordable for new buyers without absolutely crushing the value of the homes owned by millions of current voters? It's a delicate balancing act.
And this quote from the president just captures that dilemma perfectly. Even though the stated goal is affordability, there's this real reluctance to see home prices actually go down. Because for most Americans, their home is their single biggest financial asset. Trying to thread that political needle is the central challenge of, well, everything. So, where does all this leave us? We've got these bold proposals on one side and some serious expert skepticism on the other. The road ahead is anything but clear.
Ultimately, what it all boils down to is this. We have some big, headline-grabbing ideas, like banning corporate investors or overhauling tax rules. But the actual details, the how of it all, are still pretty vague. And that core conflict, how to make homes affordable while protecting existing home values, that hasn't gone anywhere. It all comes down to this one multi-trillion-dollar question. How do you help new buyers get a foot in the door without hurting the single biggest financial investment for millions of current homeowners?
That's the question that's going to have to be answered as these proposals move from just ideas to potential reality.